All right. Good morning and welcome back to Real Talk with Holistic Docs. I am Dr. Carly Golightly, and joining me is Dr. Houtan, all the way from New Jersey. What's up, Dr. Hoot?
Hi, just
Hey.
sitting here in sunny New Jersey today.
Yeah, you said it was 65 degrees and you qualified that as warm today?
Warm for us, yep.
Warm for you guys. That's New
Warm,
Jersey warm.
hoodie.
Okay, so this week we are diving back into stress. So last week we covered a little bit about acute and chronic stress, what that actually looks like from a physiological perspective. So what chronic stress actually does to your body. And honestly, this is a really great topic right now because a lot of people are feeling the stress in a lot of different ways from this coronavirus, quarantine, shelter in place, the fear over what's happening in the economy, the fear over getting the virus itself. There's just a lot of different moving pieces right now. And I know personally with my patients, I've been seeing a ton of stress amplified because of this. But the thing is that even without this coronavirus thing going on, chronic stress is still one of the number one complaints that I see, even though it may not be what the patient comes in for. So they may not come in saying, oh, I've got really bad stress. But usually they come in saying, I've got IBS or some type of GI issues, or I've got really bad allergies. That's another one I've seen a lot of. And when we dive deep into it, it ends up being that they've been under chronic stress for so long. And last week we dove into how chronic stress can really basically deplete your immune system. It has a very real physiological effect in your body and can create all these different changes that predispose you to developing these types of things, especially GI issues. That tends to be a really big one.
Yeah.
So this week we are going in a little bit deeper and looking at the different, basically the different spheres from which a holistic health practitioner looks at healing or looks at a person, at a patient, right? Because we're more than just a bag of biochemistry. um, we're human beings. We have relationships and jobs and environments that we go in and out of and people that we interact with. We have hopes and dreams and all kinds of different things happening, and we're incredibly complex, and all of those things interact and create you who you are, and they also affect your health. So today we're diving in a little bit deeper, and we're going to start addressing one of those spheres today.
Yeah.
So Dr. Hoot is going to interview me for this one, and of course you're going to chime in a little bit too, because
Yep.
I love Dr. Hoot's perspective on just about everything. So yeah, take it away, Dr. Hoot.
All right, so you've created this wonderful, I guess, document, you want to
Hmm.
call it a brochure,
Yep.
about 4 pillars of living a stress-free life.
Hmm.
So what is that? What are the pillars?
Yeah, so the four pillars, or spheres, as I referred to them earlier,
Hmm.
are inner. So inner refers to the more ethereal, spiritual, metaphysical side of things. So this is your your spirituality, your relationship with a higher purpose, a higher calling, what your intention in life is, what your mission in life is. Basically, it's all of those things that give meaning, right?
Yep.
So that's the first pillar.
Okay.
The second is the interpersonal, and interpersonal is all about relationships.
Hmm.
So that could be work relationships, family relationships, romantic relationships, all of the above.
Hmm.
After that, we have the behavioral pillar. So behavioral is exactly what it sounds like. What are your habits? What are you doing? How are you eating? How are you exercising? Are you smoking and drinking every single day? Are you going to the gym? What types of supplements or medications are you taking? So behavioral is really like the what do you do piece of things. And then the last pillar that we're going to talk about is the external pillar. This one's really interesting, and it's one that there's been a lot of really great research done recently. And it's all about creating essentially healing environments. They call them, the research that's been done on them is dubbed them optimal healing environments, so OHEs. And these are basically certain tweaks that you can make to either a home or a hospital room or a workspace that actually make people heal faster. So heal faster, and then inside the workspace, it actually creates an environment where people are more productive. So really fascinating stuff. But today
Yes.
we're going to go into the inner piece, because that is all that is way too much to cover in just one 20-minute conversation.
Right.
So.
I have to say, I think we as doctors, we really focus on the physical, substantial stuff that we can touch and see, like the last two points that you talked about. But the first two things, we don't really talk about all that much. So I'm excited to talk about that today. We're talking about the inner today.
The inner today. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So today we're going to focus on the inner sphere. So what do you like to look at there?
Yeah. So I see basically two different pieces of the inner sphere. So the first thing that I like to talk with my patients about is intention and purpose in life. This is a really big one. This is a really deep one. And it's something that you're not going to be able to come up with overnight if you haven't already spent a lot of time thinking about this. So typically what I do is I recommend reading for my patients, and I have a list of books that I literally will send to them and say, I want you to read these books. I want you to journal. I want you to think through them. And I really want you to spend some time thinking about what have you been living your life for? What have you been dedicating your life for? And this is a really interesting exercise that I've done personally. And when I looked at the things that I had been living my life for, it was stuff like proving people wrong, or not being my parents, or you know what I mean? Like when you really dive deep into it and you start looking at like the decisions that you've made and the things that you've done and boil it all down, sometimes it's not as pure of a purpose as you thought it was. And but you would never know that unless you spend some time thinking about it. And here's the thing, when you do exercises like this, it can seem really disheartening at first, because you're like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing?
I'm such a terrible person. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But here's the thing. If you never do that work and you never look into that, then you'll never change it. So you have to look into it. You have to figure out what has been the driver, the motivating factor for your life for the past however many years you've been alive. And then from there, you can work on creating the next step. So what's the mission that's worthy of your life? What is worthy of giving the rest of your life for? So I'm a spiritual person. I have a really strong faith. So for me, that is the driver behind my life now after I've done this. For other people, I've seen, things like they want to, they want to make sure that people are financially healthy so that they can contribute to charities and things like that. I've seen all different, people who think that, healthcare is a universal right. And so that's what they stand for in life. Me personally, I stand for a world where we respect people's God-given talents. And I see medicine as a way to help people to move past physical barriers that keep them from accessing their spiritual gifts. And so that's what I stand for. That's my purpose in life. But again, I wouldn't have gotten there had I not realized that I was living for other things. And so I just cannot speak highly enough of spending some time figuring out, what have you been living your life for? And then moving forward from that, what do you want to live your life for? What do you stand for? What's your purpose? And do everything with intention. Every single thing, intention. Everything should be guided towards that purpose.
And that speaks to something that we talked about last week about having quiet time to yourself. Because when are you supposed to come up with these miraculous thoughts about your life if you are constantly watching Netflix or, I don't know, listening to a podcast or, I don't know, anything?
Exactly.
Quiet time is where you develop these inner perspectives about your life.
Right. Exactly. And the thing is too, you may need to spend, it may take you an hour the first couple times you do it to like really get in touch with that side of yourself and really think through these things.
Yeah.
But once you've done it, like I do basically a 5 to 10 minute refresher every morning where I actually have a document where I've written down, this is what I stand for in life. These are the things that I value. And this is the purpose of my life. And so every single morning I review that. And then I spend a little bit of time writing in the journal about how I can use my day to live that out. And
That's,
it only takes 5 to 10 minutes. You
yep.
know,
Yep.
the initial input's a little bit longer, but once you have it, oh
Yep.
man, you can use it. You can use it so
Just go back
easily.
to it.
Just go back to it. Just go back to it. So that's my number one thing that I like my patients to start thinking about. The other thing is focus.
Yeah.
So, and this kind of ties in with intention, but what's your focus, right? Because what you focus on is what you end up dedicating your time to. It's what you end up living for,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that we focus on are things that we have absolutely no control over. So, topically, right now, a lot of people are tied to the news, worried about what the government's going to do, what's going to happen with this virus, all these types of things. And it's causing a lot of anxiety and stress.
Yep.
This is something that we can't control.
Yep.
Yes, we can, people have obviously done amazing things and stood up and donated time and money and resources and all these types of things. That is something that you can control.
Yep.
How you act in the face of a crisis is absolutely something that you can control.
Mhm.
However, you can't control other things like exactly what's going to happen with this virus, or how the government is going to act, or which stimulus packages are going to be put out, or things like that. You can't control those things. You can't control what's going to happen with the economy. Yes, it's scary, but you can't control it. And to me, focusing on things that you can't control, and again, this is something that in all different kinds of spiritual traditions, so whether it be uh, Stoicism or Christianity or Islam or anything like that, they all talk about the same thing, which is basically removing yourself from the things that you can't control,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so that is such an important thing, especially now. It's always important, but especially now,
Yep.
because when you focus on something you can't control, it actually puts you into that fight or flight state,
Yeah.
because you're ramped up, you're nervous, you're freaking out about what's going to happen next.
Mhm.
And when you're in that state, you literally cannot think clearly. We
Yep.
talked about this last week, where
Yep.
it's like it actually shuts down your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that makes rational decisions and is logical, and you cannot think yourself through a situation.
Nope.
So again, focusing on controlling only what you can. And so some of the things that you can control during times like this are your perspective and your attitude.
Mhm.
So your perspective, like, do you see things as doom and gloom, or do you see things as there's an opportunity in every challenge? Can
Mhm.
you look for the silver lining? Can you find a way to stand up and lead during a time of crisis? you know the other thing that goes along with it is kind of your attitude, right? Like, are you choosing to come to the table with a good attitude that brings light into the world, or are you going to come to the table with something that just feeds right into everything that everyone is worrying about?
Yep.
Yeah. um,
That's
yeah, the other thing that you can control is how you treat other people,
yeah.
right? So this one I always find really interesting, because it's very easy to complain about how people treat each other, but then if you step back and take a look at how you yourself treat other people, it's not hard to see why the world is that way.
Right.
So there's that great quote by Gandhi: "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." And I
Mhm.
just highly encourage everybody that if there's something that you want to see being done differently in the world, and one of those things that comes up again and again is people treat each other horribly,
Yep.
be the person that treats people with kindness. When you're in line for an hour at the grocery store waiting to check out because you have to have 6 foot social distancing and they're only allowing 20 people at a time. Be kind, be kind to the cashier. It's not their fault that things are this way. We're all just doing our best.
Yeah.
Be
I
kind to the
actually have
people.
a story about that.
Go
Sorry to cut
ahead.
you off.
No, go ahead.
This
Please tell.
just happened to me yesterday. I was at Whole Foods and I was in line for a long time, which is fine. I understand. And then I got to the cashier and he was just so rude.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to small talk with him and like joke around, wasn't having it at all. And I was like, okay, well, that was, I tried.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's for real. People are just so cranky and right now.
Yeah.
All you can do is be nice, continue to be nice, and eventually it'll pay off.
Exactly. Just continue to be nice. Again, like putting out into the world what you want to get back. Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's really what it boils down to. It's like, what do you want to see? How would you want to be treated? And for me, like, I would want to be treated with kindness and compassion and with a certain amount of levity. And, because things don't have to be taken. Yes, they're serious, but we don't have to take everything so seriously.
No.
And one thing that I think we're discovering right now is we're all socially isolated and, being forced to basically have all of our human interaction through Zoom conversation. I mean, we were doing this anyways because you're in New Jersey and I'm in California. But when every single one of your interaction is that way, we start to really value the how important it is to be in person, and to see and be able to actually like touch the people that we care about and to congregate with groups of friends, and those things really matter. Yeah, I think so. Putting someone in social isolation, according to the Geneva Convention, is actually a form of cruel and unusual punishment.
Really?
So
wow.
Yeah, if you think about it, we're all kind of undergoing a mild form of cruel and unusual punishment right now.
No.
So understand that, and also give grace to yourself about that too. Like it's really common. We're all struggling a little bit. I'm struggling a little bit. Like you and I particularly are both social butterflies.
Yeah, right. I need to be out of here.
We like people. So yes. Anyways, that was a tangent.
Yeah, it was. What were we talking about now?
Okay, so I was
on how you treat people.
Focusing. So yes, how you treat others. The next point that you can control is how you spend and budget your money.
Yes.
Yes.
So important. Mm-hmm.
This is a big one.
Yep.
And I want to make the disclaimer, like, even though you may be living paycheck to paycheck right now, even though you may have just lost your job, you still have control over this piece.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can still control where your money is going. And, if you're someone who's just lost your job, I would definitely urge you to create a budget. You know what I mean? Figure out what the most important things are to protect your 4 walls, right? Your family, your food, your shelter, your utilities. Figure out how to make those things protected over the next coming months.
Yep.
And you can do that with a budget. Yes, you may have to cut back on some things. Yes, you may have to, you may be living at a lower standard than you're used to, but you still do have control over this area of your life. You still do. And there's a lot of different things that you can actually do now to bring a little extra money in. It may take you kind of swallowing your pride for a minute, but there are things you can do. There's a lot of industries that are booming right now while others are being shut down, particularly the delivery services and things like that. So if you have to, if money is really an issue right now, go get a job doing delivery. Do what you have to do to provide right now during this time.
Yep.
And then outside of coronavirus too, the budgeting and how you spend your money too are really big factors, because a lot of times I think we tend to have the scarcity mindset towards our money. And so we tend to hoard.
Right.
But really, I see the people who are the happiest and have the most purposeful lives are those who are generous with their money. Those who give, whether it be to a charity or a church or friends or family or whatever, those who give are the ones who tend to feel like they have a good relationship with money, and also they're removed enough from the money that it doesn't control them, right?
Yep.
So you control what you do with your money versus having your money control you,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
that needs to be a quote somewhere.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sure it probably is
Yeah,
somewhere. I'm
right.
certainly not the first person to talk about this. So yeah, that's another really strong point, is start really thinking about how you spend and budget your money, right?
Yep.
Are you controlling your money, or are you letting it control you?
Yep.
And the last point, which I know that you and I could go on forever about this, is how you are spending
Mhm.
your time. So
Ugh.
this is
Yep.
this is a big one. Always,
Yep.
forever.
Yep.
How are you spending your time?
Yep.
And if this is something that you have never done, I challenge you right now to tomorrow take out a piece of pen and paper and write down everything you do for the entire day. And
Yep.
I mean everything. I mean brushing your teeth, I mean sending emails, I mean absolutely everything you do.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, go back and catalog which are the things that are worthy of my time,
Mhm.
and which of the things are creating a stronger, more productive, happier life, and which of the things are sucking the energy out of me.
Yep.
So typical things that we see people spending a lot of time on that really aren't worthy of their lives are TV,
Yeah.
social media, playing video games, things like that. And
Yep.
I do kind of want to make a distinction here too. Like, I am not saying by any means that it's a bad thing to spend time
Yep.
on social media or watching TV or something like that. Because in fact, I think it can be really therapeutic. It's like, if you know you need to just like veg out and watch a couple episodes of
Yep.
something for a little while, that is completely fine. Completely fine. But it's the intention behind it, right? So
Mhm.
are you intentionally saying, you know what, I need to just take a break right now. I'm going to play this video game for an hour and just
Exactly.
let my mind relax?
Yep.
Or is it just kind of like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going whatever and just,
Yes.
or mindlessly scrolling through Instagram and Facebook or something like that, where all of a sudden you look up and an hour has gone by and
Yep.
you don't know where it went.
Right.
There's a difference there,
Mhm. Mhm.
because when I use Instagram, I go on and I'm like, okay, I got 15 minutes. I actually physically set a timer because I know myself, like I know
Yep.
my weak spots,
Right.
like
Right.
I can get sucked into things like that. So I
Yep.
set a timer and I'm like, all right, I got 15 minutes. I'm going to answer my messages. I'm going to do my post. I'm going to connect with some people, and then I'm done. I'm out.
Yep.
And that's
That's
it.
intention.
And
That's
that's it.
intention right there. Yep.
Exactly. And that's intention. Another thing that can be really helpful for people is to really create like categories of time usage during their day.
Yep.
So for me personally, like I've noticed that I can be most creative. So I can create content, I can create like Instagram posts, I can write programs and things like that first thing in the morning. That's
Yep.
when I'm the most creative. So I've created a block in my mornings where it's like I have 2 to 3 hours of creative time. And that's
Yep.
what I do. That's the first thing that I do every single day. And this is before I look at my phone, before I look at emails, before I look at text messages, everything. Like I do all of that. Because that's the other important piece about this is when the first action of your day is to go to your phone and look at social media, to look at emails, to look at messages, it completely derails your mind.
Yep.
Right? Because
Yep.
all of a sudden you're reacting to what the world wants you to do versus doing what it is that you know that you need to do to get yourself set up for the day.
Yep.
So I highly encourage everybody to have some kind of morning routine that does
Mhm.
not involve looking at a phone.
Yep.
It involves, getting up, having a big glass of water, doing some movement in the morning, reading or listening to something inspiring, maybe doing some journaling or meditation, setting your plan for the day, just so that you basically are pouring into yourself first thing in the morning. You're filling your own cup first thing in the morning, so that you know what you're going to be doing with your time for the rest of the day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then those scheduling blocks that I talked about earlier,
Mhm.
those are really helpful also, because if you have 2 hours to say be creative, then that means you've got 2 hours to be creative.
Right.
And somehow creating that block inside your mind helps you to actually be more productive during that time.
Yep.
Because like it's not, I don't have all day to do this. I've only got 2 hours.
Yep.
So I better use this time wisely.
Yep.
And So, obviously, depending on the person, that's gonna change for how they would schedule those blocks within their day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also important to make sure that you're scheduling breaks in there too.
Yep.
Like schedule a lunch break in there, at least 45 minutes to an hour. Schedule movement breaks into there. So
Yeah.
after at least 90 minutes, I would say, or I would go longest 90 minutes. Make sure you're scheduling in time for a walk, or even just to, get up and, I don't know, wiggle your body around. I don't know. Don't sit in a chair all day is what I'm trying to get at.
Right. Especially
Yes.
now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you got to move. You got to move. And then the other piece of this is to make sure that you schedule an end to your day. So with a lot of us being at home now and doing all of our work virtually, it's very easy to let that carry on into 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever, because all of a sudden your work is right here with you. You haven't physically left work, so it seems so accessible. And it seems like people are expecting you to respond to every single email, every single text right then and there. But again, this is something you can control. You do not have to do any of that.
Nope.
I highly encourage you to create a degree of separation from your work, and have a designated end to your day. So if you say by 6 o'clock, I'm done, that means from 5:30 to 6, I've gone through all of my emails, I've replied to all of them, all the text messages I replied to, everything is done. Turn the computer off, turn the phone off, put it away, and now you have time with your family.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the final piece of focusing on what you can control.
That is so important. Time is probably more valuable to me than any other commodity.
Well, it's the only thing that you can't get back.
Right. And once it's gone, and you've either spent it on Instagram or you spent it on doing something more interesting to yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I had a question for you, and the question was, for someone who's trying to develop their inner sphere, I know you talked about a lot of things that you can do, but what is the most important or most easy for patients to do in your experience?
So I like to start with low-hanging fruit.
Okay.
So I find the time to be the easiest thing to really start working with people on.
Great.
Because that's something that we all struggle with.
Yep.
It's pretty much universal that people sometimes feel out of control and like they don't have enough time.
Yeah.
So focusing on that first and starting to get control over your time gives you momentum to move into some of these other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's where I would say if all of this is out there and it seems really overwhelming and crazy, I would say focus on do the time thing first.
Yeah. I agree. It really just sets the stage for the rest of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Because then you're scheduling in blocks of time to basically improve your attitude, improve your perspective.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Take things in, improve your input, really, right? So taking things in that are going to help to grow your mindset, grow your perspective on life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yay. Is there anything else you want to talk about with the inner sphere?
Yeah. So, well, I guess I could just say, so this, like Dr. Hoot mentioned earlier, this is the first of a 4-part series that we're going to be doing on this. I am also going to be releasing PDFs of all of this. So if you go to my website, which is drgolightlynd.com, or my Instagram, which is Holistic Fit Doc, you can sign up to receive the emails with PDF versions of this. And they're obviously going to be, basically you'll get the nuts and bolts of all this instead of having all of the conversation that we had here right now. It's a little bit more actionable, and inside of those documents, I've created links with my book recommendations and all the different things that we'll be getting in here too. So again, at Holistic Fit Doc for Instagram, or Dr. Golightly ND, you can go and it just needs your email address, and you can sign up to receive a series of emails that has all of this information for you.
Yeah, it's awesome. And if you want to talk to us about it, you could shoot us emails and DMs and such, or just listen to this video. It was awesome.
Or just listen to this video. So where can people find you, Dr. Hoot?
Me, I am at holisticdrhoot.com or Holistic Dr. Hoot on Instagram and Facebook. I am in New Jersey as of now. That may change. It didn't just say that.
We hope it changes.
Anyway, that's where I'm at. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that.
Awesome. Well, great.
We crushed it.
We crushed
Hope
it.
you all enjoyed talking about the inner sphere.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
sure did.
Yeah,
So
and join us next week where we will be talking about the interpersonal sphere. So all about relationships. Tune in, y'all. It's going to be great.
Bye.
All right. Bye.